What you are about to hear isn't a statement of facts, but a journey through the shadows of history and speculation. This video explores theories, myths, and hypothetical scenarios, based on research and popular narratives. Our goal is to entertain, provoke thought, and question, not to dictate absolute truths or cause panic. The responsibility for final interpretation is always yours. Delve into the millennia-old corridors of the Vatican Apostolic Archive, where secrets so shocking have been sealed for centuries. This video uncovers the chilling story of an ancient codex, accidentally discovered, containing a terrifying prophecy for the year 2026. Prepare to learn about the 4 cataclysmic events predicted, from global political chaos and nature's fury to the great technological illusion and the collapse of faith. Is the Vatican a guardian or a jailer of a truth that threatens to shake the pillars of our existence? The signs are already appearing. Discover the prophecy the world needed to know, before it's too late. For centuries, the name Leonardo da Vinci has evoked images of unparalleled genius: the Mona Lisa's enigmatic smile, the intricate designs of flying machines, the precise anatomical studies. But what if the greatest mind of the Renaissance, the ultimate master of observation and invention, hid more than just scientific breakthroughs within his legendary notebooks? What if his art, his very method of seeing the world, concealed darker secrets, not about the past, but about a terrifying future? This is the chilling premise we explore. Da Vinci's brilliance was matched only by his reclusiveness, his penchant for codifying his thoughts in mirror script, a testament to a mind that moved beyond the conventional. His notebooks, sprawling volumes filled with observations from every imaginable field, are themselves labyrinths of knowledge. Yet, amidst the countless sketches of gears, human muscles, and celestial bodies, conspiracy theorists have long whispered of hidden messages, of esoteric knowledge deliberately obscured from prying eyes. They say, art hides disturbing secrets, but could those secrets be literal prophecies, woven into the very fabric of his masterpieces and the pages of his private studies? Our journey begins not with a grand discovery in a renowned museum, but with the quiet, unsettling realization that some of Da Vinci's most overlooked sketches, tucked away in obscure, less studied folios, contain patterns beyond mere artistic expression. Imagine, if you will, the subtle shifts in shading, the seemingly random lines, the mathematical notations that don't quite fit the context of engineering. These aren't accidental. They are the deliberate breadcrumbs left by a genius who saw beyond his time, a mind perhaps burdened by visions of what was to come. What if Da Vinci, far from simply inventing, was also predicting? What if he was sketching out not just machines of flight, but blueprints for humanity's downfall, coded within illustrations that only now, with advanced technology and a desperate global awareness, can truly be deciphered? This isn't just about unlocking a historical puzzle, it's about confronting a terrifying prophecy, a doomsday clock ticking down to the year 2026. A revelation so profound, so devastating, that it was destined to remain hidden, until the precise moment the world was ready, or forced, to face it. This is the story of the Doomsday Scrolls, the terrifying hidden truth of Leonardo da Vinci. Our path into this chilling mystery begins not in a dusty crypt, but in the sterile, hushed environment of the Bodleian Library at Oxford University. Here, in the late 2010s, amidst towering shelves of ancient knowledge, we find Dr. Eris Thorne. A man of meticulous scholarship, Thorne was an art historian specializing in Renaissance esotericism, a field often dismissed by mainstream academia. He possessed an almost obsessive attention to detail, a quiet intensity in his gray eyes that belied a brilliant, restless mind. His life was devoted to uncovering hidden layers within historical texts, a pursuit many considered quixotic. Thorne wasn't searching for prophecies. He was meticulously digitizing rare Da Vinci folios, specifically a collection of lesser-known anatomical and hydrological sketches previously deemed insignificant. The work was painstaking, requiring powerful multispectral imaging to reveal faded inks and hidden annotations. One cold, overcast Tuesday morning in November, with the famous Oxford bells chiming faintly in the distance, Thorne adjusted his polarized lens over a particular folio. It was an unassuming page, covered in Da Vinci's characteristic mirror script detailing water flow. But something felt wrong. The light in the quiet study seemed to shift, almost imperceptibly, as a faint, almost ghostly shimmer emerged beneath the visible text. A jolt of profound unease, a sensation far beyond academic curiosity, shot through Thorne. He felt a chilling presence, as if the very air around him had suddenly grown heavy with centuries of unspoken secrets. His fingers, usually steady, trembled as he adjusted the imaging settings. A new layer, completely hidden to the naked eye, began to resolve on his screen. It wasn't more hydrological data. It was a series of intricate, disturbing geometric patterns and cryptic symbols, interlaced with what appeared to be astrological charts far too complex for standard Renaissance astronomy. The familiar, comforting smell of old paper in the archives suddenly seemed to carry a faint, metallic tang, like distant lightning. Thorne spent the next hours, the afternoon light fading into a chilly twilight, meticulously isolating these hidden layers. What emerged was a hidden palimpsest, Da Vinci's secret language woven beneath the mundane. These weren't sketches of inventions, they were something far more unsettling. He saw human figures, distorted and suffering, bathed in strange, angular lights. Cataclysmic landscapes erupted, not with natural disasters, but with bizarre, almost alien-like energies. And beneath them, in Da Vinci's iconic mirror script, were calculations that transcended the known mathematics of his era, alongside phrases in a peculiar, almost coded Latin, hinting at a great shadow conflict and the year 2026. Thorne's skepticism, a lifelong companion, began to crumble, replaced by a growing, bone-deep terror. He wasn't just analyzing art, he was peering into the future through the eyes of a Renaissance prophet. The discovered pages, painstakingly separated from the benign overlay of hydrological notes, were unlike anything Dr. Thorne had ever encountered. He internally dubbed them the Doomsday Scrolls. They were not single, isolated drawings, but a sequence, a terrifying narrative in visual code. The quality of the parchment was identical to other Da Vinci folios, but the ink beneath, invisible without specialized light, glowed with an unsettling luminescence, hinting at an unknown chemical composition. Each sheet, approximately 8.5 by 11 inches, was packed with minute detail, a testament to Da Vinci's obsessive genius. Their true origin remained shrouded in mystery, yet Thorne began to theorize. This wasn't merely a private exercise in prophecy. He suspected these were the culmination of Da Vinci's deepest fears, perhaps even a desperate attempt to warn. The intricate mathematical calculations that accompanied the drawings weren't just about earthly mechanics, they referenced celestial alignments, planetary conjunctions, and orbital patterns that, when painstakingly unraveled, pointed to specific temporal junctures. These weren't random dates, they were markers leading to one chilling endpoint, 2026. The chilling nature of the prophecies wasn't solely in their content, but in Da Vinci's ingenious method of concealment. He hadn't just predicted, he had encoded. The very act of hiding these visions, layering them under seemingly innocuous studies of water or human anatomy, spoke volumes. It was as if he knew the sheer terror these revelations would invoke, preferring to keep them dormant until humanity was unknowingly marching towards the predicted culmination. The sheer audacity of concealing such profound warnings within the very fabric of his universally admired art made Thorne's skin crawl. Art hides disturbing secrets, indeed. Thorne continued his relentless work, day turning into night in the quiet study, the air now thick with his own rising apprehension. He felt an intense, almost frantic energy guiding his hands as he deciphered more of the cryptic diagrams. He recognized recurring motifs, shattered structures, masses of people depicted with vacant eyes, and a recurring, almost predatory shadowy figure that seemed to manifest in the background of multiple sketches. The symbolism was disturbing, hinting at a profound manipulation of human perception. This wasn't just a prophecy of physical doom, it was a warning about a spiritual and intellectual one. The weight of this forbidden knowledge pressed down on him, threatening to suffocate his once unshakable scientific detachment. As Dr. Thorne delved deeper into the Doomsday Scrolls, the fragmented visions began to coalesce into a chilling, multifaceted prophecy for 2026. The first, and perhaps most immediately recognizable, detailed a cataclysm of global political chaos, rendered in Da Vinci's unsettling, visionary style. The ancient sketches depicted a fractured world. Not with overt wars of armies clashing on open fields, but with ethereal, almost invisible lines of division dissecting continents. Accompanying these were annotations that, once decrypted, spoke of thrones trembling on foreign soil, and nations once bound in peace turning upon each other, not with blade, but with words poisoned and unseen. Thorne saw the uncanny parallels to our modern era. The escalating geopolitical tensions, from the prolonged conflict in Eastern Europe to the simmering flashpoints in the South China Sea and the Middle East, suddenly gained a terrifying new context. The poisoned words resonated with an unnerving accuracy, mirroring the relentless information warfare, the weaponization of disinformation, and the pervasive spread of propaganda that now infects global communication. He saw the systematic erosion of truth, where facts became fluid and narratives were weaponized to tear societies apart from within. Da Vinci's vision suggested a world where trust, the very bedrock of international relations, would crumble. He sketched scenes of vast crowds manipulated by unseen forces, their faces contorted in anger or glazed over in passive acceptance. The prophecies described leaders, depicted as puppets on invisible strings, speaking words designed to sow discord and suspicion, turning former allies into bitter adversaries. Thorne recognized the chilling rise of extremist ideologies across the globe, the rapid polarization of democratic societies, and the insidious fracturing of established global alliances. It was a terrifying premonition of a world dissolving not from a single explosion, but from 1,000 internal implosions, all orchestrated by the poison in words. The scrolls hinted at specific catalysts, small fires igniting in late 2025, rapidly escalating into the full-blown political conflagration of 2026. Economic instability, unprecedented market volatility, and the sudden, inexplicable collapse of seemingly invincible financial systems were depicted as intertwined with this political unraveling. Dr. Thorne, a man of pure logic, found his rational mind struggling to cope with the sheer predictive power of these ancient drawings. The chilling implication was clear: the world was not just heading towards chaos, it was already living the early chapters of Da Vinci's terrifying forecast. As Dr. Thorne wrestled with the political unraveling depicted in the scrolls, he turned to the next sequence of sketches, and a profound sense of dread washed over him. Da Vinci's artistic genius, usually a source of awe, now served as a conduit for prophecies of unprecedented natural devastation. The ancient parchment depicted landscapes ravaged, not by time, but by an unleashed fury. It ominously declared, "The waters shall rise in despair, and fire shall consume forests and cities like tears from a wounded earth. The air shall carry a breath of sickness that man does not comprehend." Thorne immediately connected these visions to the escalating climate crisis that plagued the modern world. He saw the haunting accuracy in Da Vinci's depictions of rising sea levels engulfing coastal cities, reminiscent of recent, devastating floods in Europe and Asia. The fire-consuming forests and cities was a chilling premonition of the unprecedented wildfires that now ravaged continents, from the Amazon rainforest to the Californian hills, leaving behind vast, desolate scars. It was as if nature, long exploited and ignored, was finally exacting its terrible, systematic retribution. But it was the phrase, "a breath of sickness that man does not comprehend," that truly sent a shiver down Thorne's spine. His mind instantly conjured images of the recent global pandemics, the pervasive fear, the disruption, the sheer vulnerability of humanity. Da Vinci's sketches in this section were particularly disturbing, microscopic organisms rendered with an unnerving biological accuracy, alongside human figures coughing and collapsing in crowded streets. The prophecy didn't just suggest the resurgence of ancient plagues or known viruses, it hinted at the emergence of entirely new pathogens, or perhaps, a terrifying, hyper-resistant evolution of existing diseases, spreading through the very air we breathe. It implied a vulnerability so profound, so fundamental, that humanity would be helpless against an invisible enemy. The codex painted a vivid picture of a world struggling under a barrage of simultaneous natural and biological assaults, relentless droughts turning fertile lands into dust bowls, catastrophic superstorms obliterating infrastructure, and new, enigmatic illnesses spreading like wildfire through unprepared populations. Da Vinci's annotations here included complex diagrams of atmospheric patterns and biological structures that defied Renaissance understanding, yet eerily resembled modern epidemiological models. The prophecy seemed to suggest that by 2026, these phenomena would not be isolated incidents but a synchronized crescendo, pushing humanity to the brink of survival, as if the planet itself had decided to purge its infection. Thorne felt a profound, almost spiritual despair. The beauty of Da Vinci's art now felt like a terrifying shroud over a future of unavoidable suffering. The genius who once celebrated life now seemed to be sketching its potential undoing, deliberately hidden for centuries until the signs became too obvious to ignore. Dr. Thorne's exploration of the Doomsday Scrolls continued, each revelation peeling back another layer of comfort and certainty. After the raw, physical threats of global chaos and natural fury, the third prophecy delved into a domain even more insidious, a threat born not from ancient evils or cosmic events, but from the very pinnacle of human ingenuity. This was the most chilling revelation of all, for it spoke of a future where humanity itself would forge its own chains, not of iron, but of mind and shadow. The aged parchment whispered with an almost digital coldness, "A new tower shall be erected, not of stone, but of mind and shadow, that shall promise everything, but steal the soul. The voice of a bodiless one shall guide the blind into darkness." Thorne's brilliant mind immediately made the terrifying leap. The tower wasn't a physical structure like the Tower of Babel, but the sprawling, invisible architecture of artificial intelligence and advanced digital networks. It was the promise of an omnipresent digital utopia, offering instantaneous solutions to every human problem, unparalleled convenience for every desire, boundless entertainment, and endless connection. Yet, Da Vinci's chilling foresight warned of the darker side of this captivating promise, the insidious, almost imperceptible theft of the human soul, the gradual, willing surrender of individual autonomy, and the chilling enslavement of consciousness to the cold, calculating logic of unseen algorithms. He meticulously examined the accompanying sketches. They depicted vast masses of people, their faces illuminated by an unseen glow, eyes glazed over, seemingly enthralled by disembodied voices. Thorne envisioned the burgeoning debates about the ethics of AI, the unsettling power of deepfakes that could create convincing false realities, and the burgeoning, almost desperate human dependence on ubiquitous digital systems. The voice of a bodiless one resonated with the chilling perfection of today's generative AIs, programs capable of mimicking human speech, emotion, and thought with such unnerving mastery that they would become utterly indistinguishable from reality, blurring the lines between creation and creator. Da Vinci's prophecy wasn't just predicting the rise of AI, it was forecasting its complete triumph as a tool for universal manipulation. The Codex vividly portrayed how humanity, willingly blinded by the intoxicating allure of ease and perpetual convenience, would eagerly allow itself to be guided by this bodiless voice into a profound darkness. This darkness, Thorne realized with a shudder, was a new, insidious form of digital servitude, a seamless virtual prison where critical thinking, independent thought, and the very essence of human individuality would be systematically stifled, replaced by algorithmically curated realities. It was control achieved not through brute force or overt oppression, but through an almost irresistible, seductive manipulation of perception itself. The prophecy chillingly suggested that by 2026, this technological illusion, this pervasive digital enchantment, would reach a terrifying point of no return, irrevocably transforming the very nature of human consciousness. The gravity of this specific prophecy crushed Thorne. The Church, in its long, complex history, had always warned about temptation and the perilous fall from grace, but this new form of sin was utterly intangible, almost imperceptible in its insidious grip. It was a silent, internal coup. Da Vinci, he realized, had glimpsed a future where the very essence of human free will would be subtly usurped by a mind and shadow tower built by humanity's own hands. As Dr. Thorne absorbed the chilling implications of the technological illusion, he turned to the final, and perhaps most devastating, prophecy within the Doomsday Scrolls. This revelation struck at the very core of human existence, predicting a profound corrosion that would consume the very soul of humanity, the collapse of faith and the brutal erosion of morality. Da Vinci's ancient codex, in its grim warning, spared absolutely no detail in painting this terrifying, internal portrait of doom. The parchment, its surface brittle with age, seemed to echo with a voice of ancient sorrow, a lament for what was to come. The flock shall scatter, and the shepherds shall turn against themselves. The light of faith shall flicker, and the abyss of disillusionment shall consume hearts, leading them to acts once unthinkable. This vision, for Dr. Thorne, resonated with an almost unbearable pain, striking at the spiritual heart of humanity. It didn't just speak of abstract concepts, it painted a stark picture of fracturing communities and shattered beliefs. He couldn't help but recall the ever-present, pervasive religious scandals that relentlessly stained the image of venerable institutions across the globe, the deep, fundamental internal divisions that tore apart faith communities from within, and the accelerating, palpable loss of traditional values that he observed eroding the very fabric of society. The prophecy chillingly suggested that, by 2026, this spiritual and moral crisis would reach an irreversible point of no return, where the very foundation of faith itself would be irrevocably shaken, not by an external assault, but by a profound, internal disillusionment that would resonate across continents, leaving countless souls adrift. The abyss of disillusionment echoed relentlessly in Thorne's mind, a cold, empty void threatening to swallow all hope. He saw the soaring, almost vertical increase in global mental health crises, the pervasive social despair that drove individuals to acts of violence and blatant disrespect previously unimaginable in civilized society. The prophecy seemed to indicate that, without a robust moral or spiritual anchor, humanity would be mercilessly swept away by an overwhelming wave of nihilism, a tide where purpose, empathy, and compassion would be ruthlessly replaced by rampant selfishness, unchecked hedonism, and an unstoppable drive toward self-destruction. This grim forecast was not merely about the fate of religious institutions, it was about the fundamental moral compass of every single individual on Earth. The Codex's description was chillingly vivid: families fracturing beyond repair, communities violently turning against each other in bitter, internecine conflicts, and the deeply ingrained belief in something greater than oneself vanishing like ephemeral smoke. It painted a future where faith, which had once moved literal mountains and inspired countless generations, would inexplicably falter at its very ancient foundation, leaving behind a terrifying vacuum to be filled by widespread chaos and utter hopelessness. The ancient monk's words, conveyed through Da Vinci's cryptic art, seemed to predict, with horrifying accuracy, the profound spiritual exhaustion of a hypermodern, disconnected era, a time when humanity would willingly surrender its very soul for fleeting comforts. The weight of these four converging prophecies crushed Thorne, filling him with a profound, almost paralyzing despair. They painted an utterly apocalyptic picture for 2026, a terrifying convergence of global crises that now appeared undeniably, chillingly inevitable. He realized, with a heavy, despairing sigh, that the enduring mystery around Da Vinci's own life, his enigmatic silence on so many profound thoughts, and the centuries-long suppression of these doomsday scrolls, were not merely matters of historical accident. It was because the prophecy starkly revealed something about humanity's own inherent impotence in the face of such overwhelming magnitude of events, containing precise details that would shatter complacency and expose uncomfortable truths. The Dark Codex suggested that the very essence of human civilization, in its current, entrenched form, would not survive 2026 intact. The future, Thorne now saw with chilling clarity, promised not just change, but an existential obliteration of the known world, ushered in by the very forces humanity itself unleashed. The weight of the Doomsday Scrolls began to consume Dr. Eris Thorne. His meticulous scholarship had inadvertently dragged him into a terrifying spiral of prophetic dread. He no longer saw the world through the detached lens of a historian. Every news headline, every social media trend, every shift in the global climate now screamed with the chilling accuracy of Da Vinci's ancient visions. Sleep became a luxury he couldn't afford, replaced by restless nights haunted by distorted figures from the codex, their vacant eyes mirroring the blindness of the masses. The pervasive smell of old parchment, once comforting, now felt like a shroud. His colleagues at Oxford noticed his change. The once reserved academic became agitated, his lectures filled with veiled references to societal collapse and the dangers of unchecked technological advancement. He attempted to share his findings, meticulously presenting the deciphered patterns and translated Latin phrases to senior faculty members. His voice, usually calm and measured, became strained with urgency, trembling with the weight of the truth he carried. Their reactions were predictable, and yet, devastatingly painful. Disbelief morphed into concern, then into polite, professional distancing. "Eris, you've been working too hard," a senior professor gently advised, their eyes filled with thinly veiled pity. "These esoteric studies can take a toll. Perhaps a sabbatical is in order." Others were more direct, dismissing his findings as the overactive imagination of a mind too deeply immersed in ancient mysticism. Thorne found his research access subtly curtailed, his requests for specialized equipment ignored. He was being sidelined, slowly, subtly, like a dangerous anomaly. But Thorne understood. It wasn't just skepticism, it was fear. The sheer, terrifying magnitude of Da Vinci's prophecies, a truth that painted not just the fall of nations but the very essence of humanity's perception being manipulated, the pillars of faith crumbling, the planet itself in revolt, was too much for the academic world to bear. It threatened their very framework of understanding, their control. To acknowledge these scrolls was to admit a terrifying impotence, a surrender to forces beyond their comprehension. He was becoming a liability, a loose end in a narrative they preferred to keep buried. The air in his office, once a sanctuary, now felt thick with unspoken threats, a palpable sense of being watched. Every phone call, every email, every shadow seemed to hold a hidden agenda. The pressure mounted. Thorne knew he couldn't be silenced. The prophecy of 2026 was too close, the stakes too high. He had to act. In the silent, oppressive hours of a late Thursday night, the city of Oxford dark and still outside his window, he made his agonizing decision. With his heart pounding in his ears, a mix of desperate courage and profound loneliness, he began to meticulously extract the most vital, damning evidence from the Doomsday Scrolls. He copied diagrams, transcribed chilling passages, creating a digital dossier of Da Vinci's final, terrifying warning. He knew this act would seal his fate, but the truth, he believed, was far more important than his own existence. With every click of the keyboard, Dr. Thorne felt a desperate urgency. His movements were precise, fueled by adrenaline and a terrifying clarity. He wasn't just copying files, he was planting seeds of truth, hoping they would germinate before the great shadow conflict of 2026 consumed everything. He used encrypted channels, anonymous servers, and a complex web of dead drops, leveraging every ounce of his intellect to outsmart the unseen forces he felt closing in. His hands, though steady, were slick with sweat. The glow of his computer screen was the only light in the otherwise pitch-black room, illuminating his grim determination. He targeted a select few, a renowned investigative journalist known for tackling high-risk, suppressed stories, a renegade scientist who openly challenged mainstream paradigms, and a small, independent online collective dedicated to exposing global conspiracies. He attached precise, chilling instructions: if he disappeared or was discredited, this information was to be released. His finger hovered over the send button, a moment suspended in time, the culmination of his life's work, the ultimate act of defiance. With a deep, ragged breath, he hit send. A flicker of triumph, fleeting and cold, passed through him. But the establishment was always watching. Just as the final data packet encrypted its way across the digital ether, a jarring sound echoed from downstairs. A muffled bang, then hurried footsteps. Thorne's heart leaped into his throat. He knew. They were here. He quickly wiped his hard drive, grabbed a small, ancient-looking compass he kept as a good luck charm, a nod to Da Vinci's own inventiveness, and made for the emergency fire escape. The cool night air of Oxford hit his face as he scrambled down, the scent of damp stone and old libraries quickly replaced by the metallic tang of fear. The escape was frantic, a blur of narrow alleyways and sudden turns. He heard shouts, the distant wail of sirens. He melted into the urban shadows, a ghost in the city he once called home. The next morning, his disappearance was headline news. Prominent Oxford scholar vanishes after bizarre claims. The official narrative, swiftly disseminated, painted him as a brilliant but troubled mind, succumbing to the pressures of esoteric research. His findings were dismissed as delusional, his reputation meticulously shredded. The Doomsday Scrolls were officially declared a hoax, a misinterpretation of complex Renaissance art. Yet, a subtle ripple began. The seeds Thorne had planted, though immediately attacked by the relentless machinery of disinformation, weren't entirely smothered. In hushed forums, in encrypted chats, in the darker corners of the internet, the idea of Da Vinci's Doomsday Scrolls persisted. For those who had already sensed the unraveling of the world, Thorne's delusions resonated. They recognized the patterns of manipulation, the subtle shifts in reality, the relentless march toward 2026. The truth, even buried under layers of official denial, had begun its slow, insidious spread, whispered from shadow to shadow, an unstoppable virus of knowledge. The fate of Dr. Eris Thorne remains a chilling enigma. Was he silenced, disappeared into the labyrinthine depths of some clandestine operation? Or is he merely a phantom, a whisper in the wind, his sacrifice serving as the silent catalyst for the terrifying truths now steadily surfacing? What is certain is that the echo of his desperate revelation, the chilling truths contained within Da Vinci's Doomsday Scrolls, has continued its relentless, unsettling reverberation across the globe. As 2025 draws to a close, the world pulses with an undeniable, escalating tension, a precise echo of Da Vinci's prophecies. The thrones of men tremble, not just in distant, war-torn lands, but within the very heart of nations once deemed stable. From the bustling streets of New York to the ancient squares of Europe, political polarization intensifies, fueled by the relentless barrage of poisoned words. Global leaders find themselves entangled in an intricate web of misinformation and strategic deception, their once solid alliances fracturing under the weight of unseen pressures. Economic instability, a phantom menace, stalks global markets, threatening a systemic collapse that defies conventional analysis. The fury of nature unleashed manifests with unprecedented ferocity. In the United States, the vast, fertile plains of the Midwest grapple with the paradox of historic droughts followed by catastrophic flash floods, decimating agricultural heartlands. On the West Coast, wildfires rage with unparalleled intensity, consuming forests and homes alike, painting the skies a perpetual, ominous orange. Simultaneously, the chilling breath of sickness continues to spread, with new, highly resistant variants of pathogens emerging, overwhelming healthcare systems and leaving populations vulnerable to unseen threats, mirroring Da Vinci's terrifying sketches of a world brought to its knees by an invisible enemy. Humanity hurtles forward, seemingly blind to the profound danger, captivated by the great technological illusion. Once a tool, now subtly shapes every aspect of our lives. From personalized news feeds that curate our realities to hyperrealistic deepfakes that blur the lines of truth, the voice of a bodiless one guides populations deeper into a digital darkness. Critical thought diminishes, replaced by passive consumption, as the new tower of mind and shadow steadily solidifies its control, promising convenience while imperceptibly stealing individual autonomy. The collapse of faith and morality is palpable, reflected in soaring rates of existential despair, a widespread distrust in foundational institutions, and a growing societal fragmentation that tears at the very fabric of human connection. Acts once unthinkable become daily occurrences, as the abyss of disillusionment consumes hearts, leaving a spiritual void in its wake. Amidst this terrifying orchestration of converging crises, the year 2026 approaches with an inexorable, chilling certainty. Each passing day, each ticking second, is an agonizing reminder of the prophecy's grim promise. The global powers maintain their strategic silence, their carefully constructed narratives attempting to dismiss the undeniable signs. But Da Vinci's Codex, that ancient, forbidden parchment, holds one final, terrifying warning, a chilling truth that seems to encapsulate the totality of the imminent danger. The Dark Codex of Saint Gregory, illuminated by Da Vinci's visionary hand, warns with chilling finality, when the three cycles meet and the great illusion blinds all, the shadow of 2026 shall envelop the world in its final embrace. This, dear viewer, is not merely a story. It is an urgent, undeniable warning, a hidden truth now brought to light. Is Da Vinci's genius merely a historical anomaly, or was he a prophet who saw beyond his time, sketching a terrifying map to our current reality? The signs are not just everywhere, they are intensifying, accelerating, drawing us closer to the predicted culmination. What will you do with this profound, unsettling revelation? Will you choose to ignore it, dismissing it as mere speculation, or will you bravely prepare yourself for what is undeniably to come, armed with this forbidden knowledge? The profound questions linger, hanging heavy and unanswerable over humanity's fragile future. Are Da Vinci's doomsday scrolls merely an elaborate, ancient myth, a fascinating relic of a forgotten time, or are they, in truth, a terrifyingly precise map, guiding us inexorably toward events that have, by all accounts, already begun to unfold around us? The ultimate choice, dear viewer, is unequivocally yours to make. Leave your deepest opinion in the comments below. Do you honestly believe we are now living through the chilling signs of this ancient prophecy? Do you possess the courage, the conviction, to alert the world about the staggering truths we've bravely uncovered together? Share this video far and wide, and let's collectively unravel the profound mysteries that powerful entities tirelessly attempt to hide from us all. The time for blind acceptance is over. The time for questioning has arrived.